Hi there, Cy Baron here with another Sam video for beginners guitar. Wanted to show you a few of the different techniques for playing the guitar that are useful for getting different sounds out of it. Now, one of them that you may already know is the muting technique, and this is done with this part of the hand. Put your hand, as you're playing it, onto the guitar strings to partially mute them, and you get a sound which is rather like this. Now that differs from the usual sound that we get from our guitars when we strum the strings without muting. The strings are ringing. They've got something called sustain, which means the note continues on after you've strummed. When you mute the strings, there's far less sustain. There's still a little bit, but it's far less. So you get a more compacted sound, which is generally quite pleasing for certain types of music. And sometimes you don't want it to have so much sustain while you're playing, and this is the way to get rid of that sustain. And we get this sound. This is also a technique which is very widely used when people play electric guitar. Not so well known with the acoustic guitar, but a lot of people do use it. I use it a lot myself. So it's a technique which is very useful to learn, and luckily it's very easy to learn. You do need to get your hand in the right position. So I have my arm resting on the top of the guitar, and it comes down towards the sound hole at about a 45-degree angle. You don't want to have your arm down here like so. And you don't really want it like this either. While you're sitting down, it's good to have your top part of your arm resting on the top of the guitar, like so, and with your arm coming down naturally in front of the sound hole. Now, to get this technique, as I say, we want this part of the palm resting on the strings. Let's have a closer look at that. So we're coming down with this part of the hand resting on the strings, and then the hand is folding over so that we can then play the guitar with the plectrum. You see the rest of my hand is still on the strings. You can see that under there. It's generally on the is pressing down more on the lower strings than it is the higher strings. More down on the lower strings than the higher strings. And when we use this technique, we generally strum the lower strings rather than the higher strings. So we get a sound like this, rather than going all the way across. It's not so easy to do that, but it's very easy to strum the top 3 strings, or even just the top 2 strings. Now, the angle of the palm of your hand is not straight down like that, but comes across at a 45-degree angle, so something like this. And you see that I'm holding my plectrum between the thumb and the first finger, and the rest of the fingers are just stretched out. As long as you have your palm against the lowest strings, the thickest strings. That's what we're concerned with, really just the top 2 or 3 strings. And then you can start playing with chords, for example the E minor chord. You move around a little bit. Let's try the E minor to the G chord. See, it has that sort of rocky sound. Now let's move on to another technique, which is a finger picking technique. And this is a nice one to get the feel of the strings while you're finger picking. Finger picking is definitely an advanced skill, but there are certain things you can do as a beginner to help you get a feel for the strings. One of those is doing what I call the finger brushing technique, which goes like this. What I'm doing there is using the 4 inner strings, the 4 middle strings, so not the lowest, not the highest, but those 4 middle strings. Now let's try something with a C chord. I've got my thumb on the 5th string, I've got my index finger on the 4th string, I've got my middle finger on the 3rd string, I've got my ring finger on the 2nd string. My little finger isn't doing anything. Each of my fingers is on a string, and I'm just going to pluck all of them on all of those 4 strings, but I'm going to do it very gently. And after I've done it, I put my fingers back on the strings again. Now you need to keep your fingers in exactly the same position, and they should fall back onto the strings again once you pluck them. And if you do this quickly, you get this sort of sound. Which is nice if you move the chord. Let's move the chord from the C to the E minor. Now you'll notice when I'm doing this that I'm missing out a beat with the chord and just playing open strings when I change between the chords. So instead of going and trying to get immediately to that chord, I don't worry about it. I just take my fingers off, move to the chord. One of the chords I'm playing is just open strings, but it doesn't sound bad. In this instance, it doesn't sound bad anyway. Sorry about the dog. Now another fun thing you can do with your guitar is harmonics. Harmonics are fun things to slip into songs if you can do it. The technique is one where you're just resting your finger on the string. You're not pressing down, and you're resting it directly above a fret, not in the middle, but directly above a fret. Now the best harmonics to get are on the 5th fret, the 7th fret and the 12th fret. In fact, the 12th fret is the easiest harmonic to get. So you position your finger just touching the string, very gently touching the string at the 12th fret on the fret, and you pluck, and then you take your finger away. As soon as you pluck the string, you take your finger away. You get a sound which is the sound of the string, but all the lower vibrations have been stripped away and you just get the highest vibration. So in fact that sound, the harmonic sound, is present in the normal vibration of the string, but it's very difficult to hear it because it's masked by the other vibrations of that string. So there's a harmonic, and you can do it on the other strings. We can even do it across all the strings. Very nice sound. Anyway, that's 3 little techniques that you can do with the guitar. And I'll just show you one other thing which is quite fun, which is the cowbell technique. It's not applicable to anything really, other than making a cowbell noise on your guitar. The way to do it is to take a string, generally the 3rd string, pull it up, get your fingers under that string here, push it up over the string above it, and hold the 2 together like so, and play those strings. You get a cowbell. That's strictly an illegal technique, and one that I don't encourage, but it's still fun. Bye for now.